Bulavinaka and welcome to this episode of Nations Business. Dialogue Fiji this week facilitated a multi-stakeholder symposium, one that brought together stakeholders from various sectors to engage in constructive discussions and collaborative effort towards fostering sustainable economic growth in the country. The event served as a platform for knowledge sharing, idea generation and partnership building to address key economic challenges and leverage opportunities for a prosperous future. Fiji's economic landscape, development priorities, debt level, and fiscal sustainability were part of the agenda in this two-day meet facilitated and coordinated by Dialogue Fiji, with the aim of an enhanced understanding of the country's economic challenges, trends, and opportunities, and engaging participants in interactive discussions to generate workable recommendations.
Our government, the coalition government, firmly believes in an open and inclusive public dialogue process with more collaboration and participation in public policy making. Our ideology is very clear. Government alone cannot and should not try to do everything, including public policy making. We believe in participatory governance, where our citizens are part of the governance and decision-making process. We want to get diverse views from diverse and different stakeholders. We want to bring together the intellectual power we have in the country and in many of our institutions around the country to think about our challenges and develop solutions together. Everyone, in my view, has some ideas and good ideas to contribute, and once we bring together our people and deliberate on issues and problems, we come up with better solutions that we all can own. And this is a critical piece in the nation building process. This opportunity to express different views is critical in the functioning of any democracy, including ours. And in this process, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready as a government, and we've said this, the Honorable Prime Minister has said this, we're ready to take criticisms. We're also ready to admit that we in government don't always get everything right, and we don't always know everything. And we shouldn't pretend that we do. We should be ready to accept mistakes, learn from the mistakes, and take corrective actions. This openness is also important to keep government accountable and provide the much needed framework of checks and balances that should keep any government, for that matter, in check.
Government has praised the event as it promoted discussions on specific subtopics related to Fiji's economy, such as education policies, healthcare access, infrastructure development, and sustainable agriculture, as the coalition government from day one in office has been working hard to re-establish the machinery to support open dialogue.
We are trying again to bring people together, whether it's the private sector, and I can see many of you here, trade unions, academia, civil society organizations, women's group, youth organizations, development partners, and the general public. It is critical that we move away from the dictatorial business as usual approach to economic policy making, as we saw in the past. The old philosophy of one or two people knowing it all is very dangerous And we can see that from the state of the affairs in our country in the past. In some ways, our democratic institutions were broken. The economy was brought to its knees. Our socio-economic situation has deteriorated. Our public finances are in a challenging position with a bloated debt situation, all because people in charge were not listening and were too arrogant in their style of governance. And we're here to change that. We're here to listen and work together to deal with our challenges.
Government has had to make some tough decisions in the upcoming national budget that is scheduled to be announced on June 30th, and there is confidence that it will be a budget that will lay the foundation for a new style of inclusive governance, inclusive policy making, and a fiscally responsible economy.
The coalition government can consider some combinations of changes in the VAT, and there are other suggestions that the government can take on board. But one thing which I would want to point out is that we seriously need to consider what kinds of incentives that we are going to give in this budget. If you look at the average growth rate over the last 10 years, it has been around 3%. The average growth rate from the period 2015 to 2019 has been 3.1%. So the question that I ask here is, have the incentives that we've been providing, right, have they got us that growth rate that we desired, right? So this is, I think, where FRCS can work with the Ministry of Finance. You could do an impact analysis to find out the impact of all these tax incentives on job creation, tax revenue, what is the impact on GDP and so on. Those kinds of analysis will help better prepare the policies.
According to The Economist, based out of the University of the South Pacific, days for freebies are now over, as government will need to review and adjust policies based on economic conditions, budgetary constraints, and political priorities.
The sad message here is the days of freebies and tax giveaways, over-generous tax giveaways, are over. We now have to be realistic as to what is possible and what's not possible. The challenge for the coalition government is to come up with a sound, transparent economic plan. This is to provide the private sector with the necessary confidence to invest. Right? So I think we should expect a balanced and realistic budget, not a popular budget, okay? Because we have to make certain difficult decisions now, right? So there's a discussion about VAT. If you don't want to have some tax increases now, where we have some window of opportunity for discussion, we won't have the same level of opportunity in the upcoming budgets. So either we are able to systematically change some of these rates now, or we'll have to change them by a significant amount in future. So the Fiscal Review Committee makes a recommendation of somewhere around 12.5 to 15%. I am suggesting that let's look at the cost of living situation in this country, have a moderate rate of 10 to 12%. That will minimize the impact on the poor, and then you can improvise as we go, because we have to make some tough decisions now, okay? And the challenge is how much are we willing to actually change. There have been some research done on the impact of VAT, okay? It has been realized in 1990s that whenever you increase VAT, the impact of that on inflation is not going to be immediate. So policies operate with a lag. So even if you increase the VAT, you don't expect inflation to go up significantly overnight. It operates with a lag. So that's why it's very essential for the coalition government to have an independent analysis of cost of living, so you're better able to understand and design measures to deal with the situation.
Fiji now has some key themes to address post-COVID in the country's way forward. According to the Fiji Revenue and Customs Service, it is crucial to maintain business confidence and staying optimistic for opportunities that the country presents for growth. FRCES also plays an important role in supporting the diversification growth of the Fijian economy, so there is less reliance on the tourism industry, while taking advantage of the many other opportunities that Fiji has to diversify and grow, therefore support resilience going forward. Also, an important area for FRCES is examining the revenue policy to advise the government on sensible revenue policies to address and enhance revenue collection, which in turn supports the national budget and the delivery of service for the people of Fiji.
As an organisation, is to continue to simplify and streamline the tax administration system so that it is easier for businesses to operate. I think you've seen this from FRCES in recent years in terms of the removal of some of our old tax types like ECAL and the service turnover tax. We're determined to continue that journey, and I hope that that will be reflected in the up and coming budget in terms of that ongoing streamlining and simplification of our tax administration system, making it less complex and therefore easier for people to operate within. We also want to help and inform new investors, and I think this is a really important part for FRCES. So everybody knows that we're a tax collection agency, but we have to be much, much more than that. FRCES's arguably most important role right now is to support new businesses and new investment, and not let them find, through our complex documents and policies, find those incentives that will help them to come and invest in Fiji, but to proactively go and sell those incentives to them.
By maximizing the advantages of digital technology, FRCES has worked to better user experience, efficiency, and compliance with their online services. The Taxman has created a pool where big businesses, small businesses, tax agents, and his team can work together to ensure convenience, enhanced efficiency, improved accuracy, transparency, and accountability, and access to information is readily available to taxpayers.
You will be all aware that at the end of March we went live with the last two modules of our Taxpayer Online service. That is the biggest digitisation project that Fiji has ever done. It was a long project, it was late in delivery. I was determined that we get every single module online, and we've achieved that. I acknowledge that that lengthy project was late, and I acknowledge that it's not perfect. But this is where, again, we're seeking to change how we operate as a tax authority. We've created what we're calling a tiger team, and some of the people in the room are with us on this journey. So rather than trying to develop enhancements and improvements to that system on our own, we've actually brought big business, small business, tax agents all in to the consultation with us. And that team, that collective team of the private sector, of big and small taxpayers and FRCES, now work together to determine what enhancements we need to make to the system, what improvements we need to make, and we agree the priority in which we're going to address those. So it's a collaborative way to driving improvements in that online experience, but it's something we must do, and there's no going back. And you can now file every tax form online 24/7 without having to come and visit a tax office. That is the future, and it's a positive one.
Transitioning a tax collection organization from a fiat entity to a service-centered organization involves a shift in mindset, approach, and operational strategies. By prioritizing customer experience, fostering trust, and embracing innovative approaches, FRCES is set to transform their image from being feared to becoming trusted partners in the tax ecosystem.
We serve you as the taxpayer, and our job is to help you to be tax compliant. It's a really important cultural change, and it takes time to deliver across a large and complex organisation. But I think the experience that you are hopefully getting, you can see that that change is underway, and I'm determined that it continues. And that links nicely to why we pay tax, and perhaps an old sort of feeling that nobody likes paying tax and everybody is a bad taxpayer. And I fundamentally disagree with that position. So we are entering an era of digitisation of our tax services, and that's reliant on voluntary compliance. And I believe that. I believe the vast majority of businesses in Fiji want to be tax compliant because they understand the important role that taxes play in funding the national government so that we can increase health, infrastructure, roads, all those things, all education. It all comes from that tax collection, and it comes from that Team Fiji approach. So we are driving voluntary compliance, and we are changing our approach where we treat everybody as a good taxpayer. Now, really, as soon as you start to do that, it's a win-win situation. And that, please don't think for 1 minute that that means that the very small minority of people who are intentionally choosing not to pay their fair share of tax get away with things. Quite the opposite. It means we treat the majority as they should be treated, as good taxpayers, and we focus our attention in terms of audit and compliance tools and the ongoing potential rollout of VMS. We only use that where we really need to use it for the businesses that we know are not being compliant. And we shift our theme from one of education and awareness as to why being compliant is important. That's what's underway at FRCS. Of course, we're still going to target and reduce the tax gap, and we still have to deal with an economy where there is too much cash in the economy, and we really want people to have some form of electronic payment in every business.
The man at the helm of the government's revenue collector is of the view that improving the culture within a tax organization is vital for fostering an environment that contributes to a country's ongoing growth.
How we can contribute to Fiji's ongoing growth is to improve our culture in the organisation, and I think we're making progress with regards to that as well. But when we talk about being a service-centred public service department, we should benchmark ourselves against the private sector, and we should actually understand that people are our highest priority. So unless we value our people, unless we train them, unless we educate them, unless we invest in them and care about them and show empathy for them, they won't deliver for us as an organisation. So that's what's underfoot, and particularly in the skills migration space. We have to be employers of choice, because if we can get our people right, our people will provide a great service to the businesses that we seek to support, and Fiji's economy will continue to diversify more and grow into the future.
I was just going through some numbers, and I saw some numbers.
The two-day Dialogue Fiji discussions also encourage the sharing of best practices in the areas of public debt, of microeconomic policies, private sector growth, knowledge exchange, and distributive policies, with an emphasis on how these policies will affect the economy of Fiji. An area also discussed was how workplaces can ensure a culture of productivity and efficiency. By implementing certain strategies and fostering a positive work environment, organizations can enhance productivity, engagement, and overall success.
Our productivity is really low, and I really wanted, there should be some research that the people who work from 8 to 5, what is the productivity they are generating minute by minute or hour by hour. And if you don't have a substantial or structured research there that how much these people are generating the output, then there is a concern. Because that thought process is that you come on to the time at 8 o'clock and finish the work at 5 is not going to generate anything on that. So we really need to cultivate the culture of productivity, a culture of performance, culture of putting something output substantially that is necessary. Other area I also feel is that the innovation is not happening. We talk about the education system. Let me go on to the education. If we see that in Fiji, we have mostly the accountants, we have most of them are lawyers, and they are all running around to sort out the divorces and other disputes on that. But there are no real technical skills we have developed. If you see some of the countries, they talk about the STEM, which is the science, technology, electronics, and mathematics. We really need to inject that perception into the organic education system. When we have these technical people, they can develop a lot of big entrepreneurship as well. Because if you see the world, the way it is going, if you see the technology is zooming so fast. I mean, if I can give an example, back in India, there are almost more than 100 young entrepreneurs who have gone to the unicorn stage. Unicorns means anyone who achieved the $1 billion reached to the unicorn. So we need to have those sort of role model in Fiji that, I can develop a big business without underestimating the potential of the people.
Dr. Banshore highlighted the need for a small nation's ability to grow, compete, and flourish can be boosted by encouraging innovation and creativity, as by implementing the right measures and fostering a culture of creativity and innovation, small countries can unlock their potential, attract talent and investment, and create a vibrant ecosystem that drives economic growth and societal progress.
One good thing about the Fiji is that we have a lot of creative people, especially the Fijians are absolutely creative and innovative people. But they need to get the good direction, good mentorship, where they can dream of making a bigger organization. I also wanted to say the rural development, because what is happening is a migration happening, the rural people starts coming into the urban city because they wanted to get a job. But if you see the rural development, if you set up the manufacturing into the rural area, naturally there will be economic development into the rural sector. Because if you see, we try to create the economic zone and clusters only into the urban area. We are not going into the places like Sau Sau or Lambasa or into Lau region. If you have developed the manufacturing setup into that area, there will be local employment starts coming up as well. So you really develop the economy in a sustainable manner into the entire country. So I thought these are the few areas. Also, I feel that there is a need for migration of this country. I did mention this 2 years back, and it was not very well accepted at that time. What does it mean by the migration is that we need to get the people from overseas as well. Not as an expatriate, not as a visa takers, but somebody who can be settled down here. Because if your population is going down, what does it mean? That the consumption will also go down. Yeah, it's a simple rule. If your 1 million population goes to 2 million, naturally consumption goes high, economy grows high as well. And that's why Australia and New Zealand is consistently trying to get more people from overseas, because they wanted to increase the economy. I thought one of the focus we all need to have is to develop the revenue. It's absolutely critical. It's simple, like if you have $100 income and you spend $110 or $80, then you are really onto the edge. So here the question is, you have the huge bank liquidity, whether you talk about the foreign exchange, whether you talk about the normal liquidity of the bank, which is more than $2 billion, but that's all has been sitting idle. There is no return on investment onto those money as well. So someone has to think how you can utilize these funds which is sitting into the bank idle whether you can invest into some stock market overseas or somewhere where the reliability of the stock is there and you get the return on investment onto that.
Unsustainable economic growth may be a concern for a high-consuming nation with a big trade imbalance. And according to Dr. Banshad, Fiji can turn this around with a change in approach, such as the increase in production and reduction on import dependency.
We have almost $2.1 billion worth of the import and less than $1 billion of exports. And the deficit is almost $1.3 billion of the trade deficit there. And that's huge. So what does it mean? That we are a country of more consuming, but not producing anything. And that's really a serious concern for all the Fijians, is that if we don't produce, if we don't create something new, then we are not viable country, or we are not economically sustainable country to run in a long terms. So my focus is basically we really wanted to create something new, and substantially new creation, new production, new mindset has to be developed.
And that was Nation's Business for this week. Remember, you can view this show on government's YouTube page. Be sure to join us again at the same time next week. Till then, stay safe and Mother Manda.